Life can change in an instant. For many wheelchair users, the struggle to push forward is a daily challenge.
After years of development and countless prototypes, we created Rib Grips, the revolutionary wheelchair hand rim covers with built-in ribs for ultimate grip and comfort.
No more slick surfaces, no more heat burns, just pure, reliable grip. Rib Grips, empowering you to push forward with ease. Rib Grips, get a grip on your freedom. Discover the difference. Visit ribgrips.com and use promo code GRIP today. You just found the perfect product that helps with staying cool during hot summer runs. No more gross warm water. Stay cool with this product from Gear Handle. This hydration tube cover helps keep your water cool and easily accessible. Stay hydrated during those long summer runs or even delay from freezing in the winter. Plus, they're compatible with various brands of water bladders and come in various colors. Visit gearhandle.com and use promo code H2O today.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Astrology Table for Two.
And there's always a third chair for you. This is Rachel.
I'm April.
And this is Astrology Table for Two, where there's always another chair for you. And we are missing our lovely friend Jordan Collier today, but April Lehman has been so kind as to step in, and in a very capable way. April has a background in astrology, and I am super excited for us to speak about this very interesting second full moon in Capricorn, which is happening today. We're actually recording after the full moon. Speaking of Saturnine things, waiting until after the full moon, we're recording, but the moon was at 5:18 a.m. Central Daylight Time at 29 degrees, or that last powerful kinetic anaretic degree of the sign. So April, how are you feeling about this moon?
I'm very excited about this moon. I am always fascinated when there are two full moons in one sign in a month, really because I think it calls out all the different ways that we can take advantage of that energy. And we were just discussing how when there's this bonus round two, if there's unfinished business, anything you didn't get to complete that first time, the universe is like, well, you get a second chance. Here we go again. And so there's an opportunity there. So definitely take advantage of that.
And since 2019, Capricorn has been the scene of like a lot of major astrology and Saturn's astrology specifically, right? Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn. It's been pretty intense in both of Saturn signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. So I feel like, 4 years, 5 years out from those initial major shifts in Capricorn, we're getting these two moons at the very beginning, right? And at the very end of Capricorn. And like you said, it kind of gives you the fullest context of sort of the perspective or the messaging coming from that sign in that area of the zodiac. And Capricorn's cardinal Earth. So we're moving things forward and beyond what we previously have.
Absolutely. I also love that this is on this Cancer Capricorn polarity and that dynamic there. I think the journey really highlights how we are becoming an adult in highlighting these family elements because, Cancerian, the mother, Capricorn, so much that masculine earth energy. So there's this axis that we're transiting between those two signs. And yeah, that adultness, how can we stand up stronger and be more present in our masculine authority, whether that's, embodying Capricornian things and journeying the beauty of the mother and the moon. It all just kind of works together in this powerful way.
I really love you bringing that up too, because Capricorn, speaking of standing up, it rules the skin and bones. So like the skeleton that we're standing on and within, but also it's the 10th sign in the zodiac, and it has a very loose correspondence with the 10th house, which is often called the house of the father, right? And it's the public, professional provider sign, right? Making sure that we are provisioned is a very Saturnine thing, and it's in deep contrast to the caretaking, caregiving, Cancerian mother archetype. And so we are heavy, I think, in both, especially with the sun, having that opposition, right? With the moon, both of these times, this Cancer season has been very charged. And I think we are feeling a lot, especially because the closest aspect that this full moon is making is a perfect sextile to Neptune in the last degree of Pisces. And I mean, the moon is also making a very close aspect with Pluto across a sign boundary, but there is less than a degree or just about a degree between the moon and Pluto. So like rebirth and consciousness expansion, or especially directed development, feels like it's for sure on the menu.
Absolutely. As a Scorpio with so much in Scorpio, I love Pluto. I love that transformation, death, rebirth, revisiting, and coming out stronger. And I think people are being challenged to stand up in a way, as we've said, and embrace that strong sense of self. And maybe it's going to look different than you ever expected. And so,
yes,
we love a Pluto moment.
And cheers to that. Hold on. Let's inaugurate this transformation with, love that.
The best sound.
So in honor of this moon, we're not doing the caffeination we were doing at the beginning. Now that we're at the end of Capricorn, it's a slight celebration, but we're doing it very adult. I've actually got a bottle here of Cremontal sauce, which is a very dry, appropriately dry, right? Capricorn is cold and dry. Rosé wine. And we've got some awesome, very adult glasses. I brought Riddell flutes instead of our usual solo cups because Capricorn absolutely would not and could not do a solo cup.
That is for sure. I don't know if you know this, Rachel, but my family origin is from the Alsace region of Germany and France. And so it also feels quite apropos.
I appropriately had no idea that is Moon in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer. Like whatever I'm feeling is typically going to be what we do. Whoa. All right. Here, take the rest.
Oh, yeah, here.
I'm going to hand it over.
Thank you.
So one thing that I've really been thinking about too is the fact that the first Capricorn moon was ruled by a direct Saturn, and this Capricorn moon is ruled by a retrograde Saturn. Still in the same place. Like it's still, it's around that station period. And so we're kind of, I think that we're focusing on some central territory, right? Saturn's right there at 19 degrees. It's in the very middle of the sign. But it's kind of giving us, I think, a perspective on what needs to be specifically emotionally and spiritually revised in order to keep pace with or provide the undergirding for these very cardinal changes. And as we know, transformation is a very mutable thing, but it's also very deep and occasionally directed. And I feel like in this time, we all kind of have an area of life which is calling for or aching for that major shift. And I feel like we all know where it is. It's probably in that Capricorn part of your chart where you're like, yo, something has definitely got to give.
I relate to that so much. I have Capricorn in my 6th house, so my daily routine is very much undergoing some transformation, some editing. Anytime we have a significant planet in retrograde, we're thinking about revisiting, revising. It's just add that RE on top of any word. And,
right.
And that's what we're focusing on, not necessarily starting new, but how are we revisiting something in order to transform it, in order to transmute it and move beyond into the next evolution of ourselves. For me, it's very much highlighting daily routine, how I'm showing up in my day-to-day life. What is that going to look like for the next season? And so it's really good to look at your own chart and identify where that Capricorn, especially if you have 29 degrees of Capricorn, where that's hitting. And what are you experiencing? What feels natural to you to just edit and relook at?
So we both are Leo risings. We both have Capricorn here in the 6th house of daily routine and also of material issue or work, right? And I personally, I am definitely feeling a similar thing, but I've got Saturn personally. My natal Saturn is at 25 degrees of Capricorn. And one thing I've been realizing is that I have been, like this season has been work with a capital W. Like 6 to 7 days a week work, my full-time job work, my astrology readings work. taking care of children, work, doing a lot of family stuff. So I went on vacation, but vacation with your whole family is sometimes work. Yes, exactly. And that something about that can't stay the same. Like all work and no play makes Rachel a dull girl. And there are places, especially Saturn retrograde in Pisces, I have Mars at 20 degrees of Pisces. So right there on top, I'm like, my spirit needs more than this.
Yeah.
It really does. And it feels selfish to say like, I can't with this, but I kind of can't with this. Like I need to be more in my spiritual practice. Like I haven't been able to do yoga, literally time constraints. Haven't been able to do yoga in weeks. And there's a part of me that's like, you must be choosing part of this. Like this is your design. And does your family need this money as much as you need this practice?
That's such a beautiful way of rethinking kind of what you have on your plate and making those edits. And it's just true that it's not sustainable for you. And that's why astrology can be such a beautiful roadmap and guide when you can look into your chart and say, okay, this is why I feel this way, because it's just true for me. And it doesn't have to be true for anybody else, but it's your design, it's your star map. And you can use that as data and information, very Capricornian, and make a change. And so I'm glad that you are in touch with yourself enough to recognize that and then bring it up, deal with it, and move on.
I also find it very interesting. While that was happening, we heard these sirens. We're on the 21st floor of a building in downtown Waco, so there must be a lot of sirens. And on my way here, I actually passed a major, major accident that I thought would make me late. But luckily it had just happened, so emergency vehicles hadn't quite closed off the intersection yet. But there is a lot going on with Mars being the exaltation ruler, or the co-ruler, not co-ruler, but Saturn rules Capricorn. Mars does its best work in Capricorn, so they both have something to say about what's going on in the Capricorn part of our charts. And Mars just changed signs yesterday. And it changed signs after it had a major, disruptive, earth-shaking conjunction with the change maker outer planet of Uranus over at 26 degrees of Taurus on top of the crazy star Algol. And I feel like for this whole week, really up until yesterday, we were dealing with these reverberations of that conjunction and the material shifts that it causes, or the great change, sometimes cataclysm, sometimes innovation and breakthrough, that it's been causing in the Taurus sector of our charts. But this is trine to this moon in Capricorn, and Mars, having changed signs, is now immediately conjoined Pluto, and this moon is conjoined Pluto. So I feel like Mars is giving us a little push in the direction of change, because it's now in Gemini, and mutable signs are about change. But I also find it interesting that Gemini is actually quincunx, or in conjunct. It's like an awkward angle with Capricorn. And so I think some of this transformation, or that sort of alchemy that we're talking about, whether it be like our daily routines, it's going to feel awkward. Like it feels weird for me to ask my family, like, hey, or my workplace, like I really need to not work nights and weekends because I need to move my body and connect with God and spirit in yoga or in whatever my meditation practice, which I have also let go. But I have to do that. It's a strange request.
Yeah, it won't always feel natural or add up in a way that makes perfect sense, which is a challenge. I mean, Mars is a challenging planet, and it's going to push you.
The planet of challenge and pushing.
Literally. But the beauty of it is it gives you the energy to do it. So even if it feels uncomfortable, you're going to have that fire behind you to just say the awkward thing and get it out. And sometimes we just need that. We need that kick in the butt to just say the thing.
And girl, you couldn't be more right, because right now there are also, everybody out there, 4 major other aspects that are perfecting in the sky on this same day. And that's kind of unusual to have 4 major aspects perfecting, but 2 of those involve Leo. We have Venus in Leo sextile Jupiter in Gemini, and then we have Mercury at the end of Leo, which is squaring Uranus at the end of Taurus. So these Leo placements are about that, especially Mercury in Leo, the expression of self.
Absolutely.
The sort of like embodiment of one's true essence, or the diffusion of one's personality, right? The assertion or the centering of that. And it can feel weird. It can feel weird to, in the midst of a lot of chaos or necessity, right? Saturn brings about necessity and brings about things that require patience, to then ask for what you want while some hard stuff is going on.
Oh, yeah. It's like when it's almost like in an emergency room setting, when everyone is bleeding out, you're like, okay, but I need my own thing. I need my saline drip. And it's like, there's so much chaos. If you look around, I mean, just keeping up with news headlines, look at the world around you. In the midst of all of that, you still have to advocate for yourself, which is very Leo. You still have to show up and say that these are my needs.
I'm getting chills. That's so true.
and I think that's the work, right? To not let all of this energy, which there is a lot happening, distract you from your own path, because that's all we can control. You're on your own karmic journey, and you need to be true to that, which is a beautiful thing that Venus in Leo allows for.
And I mean, you're speaking to the fact that the North Node is still in Aries. So we are still doing this journey to enlightened selfhood and self-assertion. Mars being in Gemini also, to your point, like confusion and distraction are on the menu for challenge. Like that's what we're going to be challenged by, is the division, the rhetoric, the, difficult conversations, specifically arguments with Mars and Gemini. But nobody can or will be as true of an advocate for you as you will be.
100%.
And they shouldn't be. That's nobody else's job.
That's exactly right. And we have to remember that. I think so many of us look or are waiting for permission, and that permission will not come. We have to claim it for ourselves.
Well, people are not going to believe in you first, right? If you don't believe in you or believe in what you're doing or what you want to do, then why would anybody else back the horse who doesn't believe it can win?
Oh, I love that. That's great.
But it's also something where that it's a catch-22 almost, that self-belief and then the ability to assert it. And I feel like especially Mars trine Pluto, I like this Mars in Gemini, another aspect that's perfecting today, is trining Pluto, where the moon is right now as we're recording. It's right there on top of Pluto, right around 0 to 2 degrees of Aquarius, and that Pluto is retrograde. So there's something I feel like about reclaiming misplaced power.
Oh, I like that.
That we're doing.
Yes. And Aquarius allows things to be a little bit zany, a little bit unconventional. Revolutionary, yes. Martin Luther King Jr., a very famous Aquarius, had that vision. And so we can claim some of that medicine in the midst of it all.
And vision has to be held. That's the Saturnine part, I think, too. The fixed air, right, of Aquarius is you've got to hold that in mind. And if you cannot cohere your vision, how can you execute it?
Oh, that's good.
So speaking of execution, the rest of our podcast also has to occur. So I'm going to allow a break for a word from any potential sponsors.
All right, top 3 transits. We're moving on. Number 1, Sun enters Leo. It's home sign, which, oh my goodness, I love Leo season. We're both Leo risings.
We're pumped.
We are excited for this transition. I think Cancerian energy is so healthy, but also exhausting emotionally for me. So I'm very in the mood for Leo season whenever it comes around. I also have a teenage daughter who's a Leo. So happy birthday to Addison. I'll give her a shout out.
I love that. I think that's awesome. Leos love their shout out.
They do. And so this will happen on Monday, July 22nd.
At 2:43 a.m. And so we are sitting here, just 12-ish, 14 hours before that. And so we're on the cusp of Leo season, where the sun is in, of course, because the full moon was at 29 Capricorn, it's at 29 Cancer. So I think we are feeling these themes very much, but we are excited for this transition because Leo is the sun's home sign. So we all love a planet in rulership. It gives us some powerful energy to work with. And in Leo's case, the fixed fire sign, right, is ruled by the sun, but it's represented by the lion and it rules the heart. So we're dealing with some very personal, very vibrant, and very vivifying energy that I think, Leo lights up a room. Leo placements allow us to center and express. And I mean, I think this time too, after these 2 Capricorn moons, we're going to need a little bit of a personal focus, especially with confidence.
Yes, courage to stand up and lead, courage to take up space and
Yes.
and speak truth. I love there's so many Leo archetypes I think that we're drawn to in culture and society, in literature, and even in songwriting, music. I think we all love a hero. We love a hero's journey, and Leos perfectly kind of fit that archetype.
Totally. And I think it's worth noting as well that when this sun transition happens, it's in an immediate opposition to Pluto. So sometimes that self-advocacy or that self-expression comes at a cost, or it comes up against challenge. And I feel like this is even better for us to sort of forge or understand our own spiritual center and to display that bravery, right? Courage, it's the heart, right? That's the Latin root of it. And so there is a performance element to bravery and to courage and to self-assertion. And that isn't easy these days, specifically in the environment socially that we're all existing within, where we're on the brink of war. There's assassination stuff going on. There is political instability. There's economic instability. And I think bravery is needed. We need that hero right now.
We do. I love that you said it can come at a cost, because that is so true. And I think when we think about Leos, a lot of times we think, oh, they just want to be center of attention. It's very pick me energy, but it's actually so much deeper than that, because that bravery will always cost something. There's always a challenge and an aspect that is forging character in the process. I really believe that Leos who have done the work will say the thing, they'll stand up, they'll be the leader, but they get there because they have been challenged at every step and have built the character in order to be worthy of being followed.
And also, there is an element of self-love that comes in to that authentic expression, because if we don't express our truth, it is self-denial. And I think Capricorn can be the king of self-denial, sort of doing and suffering for the collective, especially out of a sense of duty. And I feel like Leo has also a duty that it feels towards the self and the enlightened self specifically. We're all here for purpose. And Leo is all about the expression of that purpose or the performance of that purpose in a way that promotes personal like self-actualization, and also the execution of what is really meaningful. And like that, what is life about other than expressing the meaning of yourself and your place here on earth? It can be hard to do.
It's very hard to do, but it's worth it.
So the sun will stay here in Leo until it enters Virgo, when it typically does in late August 22nd. And the sun entering Virgo is also going to feature heavily. And I think we're doing a little bit of foreshadowing for when the nodes change and we go from Aries and Libra to the Pisces Virgo axis coming up shortly in January of this coming year, even though we'll have a Pisces eclipse before that. So our second transit here is Mercury enters Virgo, which is its home sign. We like these upgrades, and its sign of exaltation. Let it be known that Mercury is the only planet that exalts and rules in the same sign. So that will happen on Thursday, July 25th at 5:41 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Highlights coming fast and furious, quick in that first week after the moon. So what do you feel like about the sun in Leo and then Mercury in Virgo? We're going to have some very positive, powerful transits, I think, for the execution or for the doing of all of these things that we feel changing right now.
Absolutely. So Virgo energy is great for organization. It's attention to detail. So this is about getting very detail-oriented, focus in on the thing that you need to handle, that you need to get organized around. And with Mercury, that air sign, like ruling communication, we can start discussing and having conversations around things that are a little bit more tedious. I think there's room for that. I think this is time to, like I said, get organized, like clean out your junk drawer and figure out how to make your life a little bit easier for the next season. Set yourself up for success by using this to really zero in. It's a moment to get out of the big picture and narrow in and focus your energy.
Because we can make big plans, right? And Leo might make some big plans, but then there's the actual living out or working out of those plans. And Virgo is the perfect sign, right? It's Mercury's yin sign. It's the 6th sign in the zodiac. It is ruled by Mercury, but it represents the Virgin. And I think that the Virgin is an often misunderstood archetype. I prefer to speak to my clients specifically about how the first computers, or the word computer, they were women who computed.
Exactly.
And this sort of computing is what got humans to the moon. But it's also about that detail orientation, about that parsing through information in order to figure out what is true and what is practical, what is workable, and what will serve, right? What completes the equation. And I also think it's interesting that Virgo rules the lower alimentary system, specifically the intestines. And there are more neurons that are there in that small intestine than anywhere else outside of the brain. So the brain in our gut.
Second brain.
The instinct, right? And it's a mutable earth sign. So this is about changing things physically, literally, actually arranging so that we can promote the things that we care to take care of, or care to serve, or care to execute in our lives. And I think there are going to be a lot of schedule changes, a lot of, like in our case, hey, daily routine changes, maybe even some, if Virgo is something featuring heavily in your chart, there might be a lot of things that end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think endings are kind of scary for us, especially because if you know already, you're anticipating what I'm saying, but Mercury is entering Virgo and it's already in its retrograde shadow. Mercury will station retrograde, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it stations retrograde on August 4th in Virgo. And I kind of love this. I love this especially because when you have high quality Mercury, you've got the mind, you've got that attention, you've got that focus, got the sharp tack. It's the best time to edit and to do all those things, right?
Yes.
Revise, reorient. And we've got Saturn retrograde, which will be opposite there in Pisces. So I think there's a lot of things that maybe we've moved forward with that we need to go back to the drawing board on.
I couldn't agree more. I think the word that comes to mind is minimalism. And how can we reduce? How can we take a critical eye, that red pen, and just cross some things off? Especially with, like we said, big dreams, big plans, big ideas. We need to revisit and come back and say, okay, but what is actually going to serve my highest good? And let your intuition guide you there, because your gut is truly the source of wisdom in this moment. Go with that intuitive hit. And, some of us interact with our guts in different ways. I think it's always an accurate compass, but maybe this is even a time when you say, I'm going to prioritize my gut microbiome, eat a certain way, prioritize health, so that I know that I can listen and that my body is getting fed what it needs so that it can be honed in that true North Node source of wisdom and trust for us in this season.
And I think trust is also key with Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Like there's a surrender to the what is that's involved. But I like the dichotomy of the spiritual maturing of that Saturn in Pisces, especially Saturn retrograde. And then the Mercury retrograde in Virgo is like, okay, so now how do we create actual discernment in these intuitions, in this gut feeling, in this sort of okay, I have to grow up a little bit here. This moon is like the grow up moon. This to me, this cycle is like, all right, everybody, let's put our big boy, big girl pants on. Let's do adulting. Like most of y'all listening to this podcast, you're probably millennials, might be Gen X, maybe you're Gen Z, but all of y'all are now adults pretty much.
Pretty much. And there may be a way that you have to show up as the adult just in a bigger, more magnified context. So one theme that came to mind specifically around that earlier thing we were talking about with the axis between Cancer and Capricorn, maybe this is a moment for single parents who have to be both mom and dad.
Ooh. Yes.
You know, it's embodying both. It's taking on dual energy and getting it done. Whether it feels good or not, and it might feel awkward, but sometimes you just have to push through and do it.
And especially with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, I'm really feeling that, that single parent thing. There's a lot of non-traditional structures, specifically like organized family structures or legal structures that are coming to pass as Pluto's been, flirting with Aquarius and dipping its toe in over the last several years. More and more people are in non-traditional agreements within their relationships or are creating different types of communities, specifically transformative communities. You could call it the nouveau new age. Like, I feel like there's a new age that's coming in that's also very critical of what has been the new age, right? A lot of that, it sounds mumbo jumbo when you think about it. It's very woo or whatever. But then you have things like astrology, which I feel like are experiencing a renaissance because people are finding utility, very Virgo thing, and they're finding accurate information in certain aspects of that new age. Even yoga and that resurgence, right? The Yoga Sutras have a lot of wisdom in them. And yoga product has been what's been hawked and marketed and sold. And I think we're all realizing that there are things, specifically non-traditional things that can really help us. Alternative medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. A lot of what's new is very old, right? The old is new again, especially with Pluto and Aquarius. But Pluto is retrograding back. And so it will be in Capricorn again. And I think that's what I love about this moon at 29 degrees right now of Capricorn. That is where Pluto will be come September when it re-enters Capricorn for the last time in any of our lifetimes. So whatever's going on right now, this is the spot where Pluto is going to really drive it home here in the fall.
Yeah,
this
take
pain
note.
point.
It's a good preview for what we're going to be feeling for a long time.
Yeah. And then Pluto will come back into Aquarius, back there to 0 degrees in late November. But I know that there are some last gasps, right? Capricorn represents the establishment. It represents the tradition. It represents the past. And so having Pluto one more time right there where this moon is, I feel like these Virgo transits, specifically Mercury doing that retrograde and being here, taking a couple of passes here through Virgo, this is going to really help us organize our lives, right?
It's awesome.
So Mercury will be in Leo/Virgo actually for a long time until September 26th. So keep your wits about you. Speaking of Virgo things, they're not over yet. Our third transit is Venus will enter Virgo and Mercury will station retrograde on the same day on Sunday, August 4th at 9:22 p.m. and 11:56 p.m. Central Daylight Time, respectively. So at virtually the exact same moment. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, as we know, Venus has a hard time in Virgo.
Yes, she does.
She does not she wants to be in love. She wants to be feeling her feels and enjoying her pleasurable moment. She doesn't want to be self-critical. She doesn't want to look at her heart-forward, luxurious self with a critical eye. Yeah. It just doesn't feel good, but it is necessary sometimes.
Yes. I couldn't agree more that it's not fun to see the cracks in the foundation or the wrinkles in the plan, but it can be very practical and it can be very helpful. Specifically in evolution, Virgo is a mutable sign. So it's about that change. And changes in love are often painful, right?
Very, very. It could be a good moment to evaluate, is this relationship working for me?
Mm.
Is it for my highest good? It's a good time to maybe even edit friendships and platonic relationships. Where can I set better boundaries? Where can I be more aware of how this person is impacting me, and things that Virgo rules, your health. Is this a healthy dynamic? Is this for my my highest good in terms of what is my own journey and my evolution? So I would say don't waste the energy here, because it's a good opportunity to work with what's already happening. And so I'm speaking to myself here. Let's get out that microscope and be self-critical. Maybe even invite someone to partner with you in that, and let someone else give you that input that maybe you weren't ready to hear earlier.
Well, Mercury and Venus together, I mean, that's a lot of relationships, right? Because a lot of our relationships begin in mercurial context, whether it be conversations that then become romantic, or whether it be transactions that then become friendships, right? Or whether it be any kind of like, hey, maybe our kids, Mercury, are together in school and now we relate to each other. And Venus, it's not fun. I think of Venus in Virgo as like the not fun Venus transit. And it's right before we get Venus in Libra, so right before she's in her home. But it's nice to take a full accounting of what's true, and to, we don't want to keep score. Venus exalts in Pisces, right across the way from Virgo. She wants to give unconditionally and without boundary or border, but that's not real life.
Correct. One thing that you have mentioned was this idea of love is caretaking. And so there are definitely seasons in any relationship where we take on that more caretaking role, where we have to step up and be in that place of, okay, I'm giving more than I'm receiving. I think Brene Brown talks about how relationships are never 50-50. Sometimes it's like, I have 25% today. Can you pick up the slack and give me, the other 75? And sometimes, like, no, I can bring a full 60%. And this is a time maybe where you're going to be over giving, but know that is seasonal and it can only be temporary. You can't maintain that love as service forever.
Oh, 100%. Because yourself also needs, like, you need to steward yourself.
Yes.
And that's, nobody else can take care of you for you completely and decide your needs ultimately. But one thing I love about this transit, so health and caretaking are central to Virgo and to Virgo's significations and to her joy and her enlightenment. But I also love the feeling of nerding out.
Yes. Oh, such a good point.
Venus in Virgo is like everything that you're really like super into, like we're into astrology, right? This is the time to get with your people who are into the technical version of whatever it is that you are participating in or learning about. And those people, I feel like it's a great time to commune over those mutual interests.
Yeah, create a bonding moment. This is a great time to set up a meetup. Invite other people into whatever thing that you're nerding out on, and let that be a source of connection and love and mutual just understanding around a particular topic. That's great.
I feel like it's going to be interesting, though, having the sun in Leo and then having all this, Mercury and Venus in Virgo, because Leo wants to go out and Virgo wants to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is, they're right next to each other, so they don't see each other zodiacally, and there's a difference in them that is quite major. But I feel like there'll be a part of us that wants to have hot girl summer, live our best life until we all have to go back to school in like 5 minutes. And then there's going to be another part that's like, bitch, you got work to do. Like you have chores. Like you cannot go back to school with no laundry. What you going to wear? Like
I don't think anything could describe the experience I've had over the last 2 months better than what you just said. Literally at home, I've got to do laundry. I've got to stop traveling and clean my house.
Right, for really pragmatic reasons.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways that Venus in Virgo gives love, is that practical, pragmatic, service-oriented thing. But I think it's important to remember Mercury is retrograding here at the same time. It's stationing at the same time. So it's inviting an editing of exactly this thing,
Mm-hmm.
of exactly these processes. So if we're connecting over mutual interests, like be open to learning something, be open to changing your opinion. Speaking about astrology, there was a time when I was a Placidus-based astrologer. That was the house system I worked with. And like we talked about when we first met,
Oh, yeah.
there was a moment where I'm like, well, I've got to do whole sign. But it was in talking to other professionals that I recognized that there was a way of doing things that was more efficacious.
Yeah, you converted me. So
Ah.
I'm now a whole sign astrologer.
And I feel like that it can also apply to many more aspects of life, but specifically ones like right, how do we keep our house? Well, maybe there is a way we've been doing things and a schedule we've been doing laundry on that's really not going to work for this season. And what used to be Sunday stuff has to be Monday stuff, or, insert your augmentation to your schedule here. But there has to be an openness to changing something that we've previously enjoyed as stasis, because Virgo is going to do its mutable thing and shift the landscape.
It will. And being open to change, specifically in those detail-oriented things, I think that's good medicine for me because I hate being detail-oriented. I am so much more a classic Leo, big picture, big dreamer person. So this is a great time to put pen to paper. Like, let's dig up what was your vision 5 years ago and edit it. And it's not the time to create big new plans. Let's revisit and revise. Let's look at how we can transform and transmute based on the energy of what's happening now.
And I think it's important to note before we finish this transit that Mars is in Gemini, square to all this business. So there's going to be a snag in the
plan.
Yeah. There's going to be an edit to the schedule, and there might be something that's pressing against you or challenging you to rise to an occasion. And these are both Mercury ruled signs. So a lot of it's going to be about, like what you said earlier, that detail orientation, that like double checking, that editing. Like you need that red pen because there's got to be some stuff that's red penned. Like we've got to take some stuff out and put some stuff in.
And don't let it hurt. Like don't take it personally. This is just the energy that's happening. So don't let it derail your own personal emotional homeostasis. Just ride that wave and know it's coming. Pack your patience, as my good friend,
love that.
My good friend Tiffany always says, pack your patience. Drink a glass of water and get on with it. It's okay.
Because Venus will be here in Virgo until August 29th. So we're going to have, quite some time to suss out, or to at least Venus, no matter where she is, she's a benefic. So even when she is fallen, she might sort of flounder in her execution of what is supposed to be a gift or a gift giving. But there is a very helpful and positive quality to her presence in any sign. So I think if we can avoid being too caught up or being too critical,
yes,
then we'll be great.
That's a great theme. Don't take it, don't look at yourself and be so hard on yourself. It's like the mistake was actually the plan A all along. You just didn't know it. It's like you scheduled a date, they didn't show up. You ended up meeting the person next to you at the bar that you were supposed to talk to anyway. And it's like, just let that happen.
And that's the trust exercise. That's the trust fall with the universe is like, this is what is supposed to be. Everything is for purpose. Everything is meaningful. Saturn retrograde in Pisces is like, oh, but it's so hard to accept that. And this transit, I feel like, is going to be that challenge. So the next lunation is going to be exciting for you and I. It's going to be the new moon in Leo, which happens on August 4th. So, of course, that's the sun's home sign, but it's a new beginning that I'm really thrilled about. I feel like we have to perhaps, lay some groundwork, though, before we can enjoy that sunrise.
I agree. I love that because it's the day after my daughter's birthday. So it's going to feel like it literally we're turning the page on a new chapter. She's turning 15. She's going to get her permit. There are just big things on the horizon for her. And she and I have gone through a really powerful journey over the past year. So I am very personally looking forward to turning this page and opening up to new moments. And new moons are my favorite moons.
especially when they're in your first house.
Exactly.
New beginnings.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, April, for being here. I totally appreciate you. And maybe you, me, and Jordan should sit down for that new moon in Leo.
That would be a dream come true. Thank you so much, Rachel, for having me.
We'll see you guys next moon.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.